This lecture gives an overview of the process of photosynthesis. So first we need to ask, what's the purpose of photosynthesis? Sometimes I'll abbreviate photosynthesis as PS. The overall process is using light energy, big E is energy, to make high energy organic molecules. And those can be then used to do two things. One thing is they're used to build cells and body parts. Or the other thing is that they'd be used for cellular respiration, and then that would make ATP to do cell work or run the cell. If we look at a chloroplast, which is the part of the cell where photosynthesis occurs in eukaryotes, the type of cells that have lots of membrane cell parts inside, this is one of them. It is a double-membraned organelle. So right now I'm drawing the inner membrane, and first I drew the outer membrane, so we can label those. Okay. And there's more membranes inside of the chloroplast. I'm just going to draw one stack of them, but there are many, many stacks of these. I'm drawing one because we need room to draw other things in our chloroplast. And I'm drawing them green because this is where those pigment molecules are that make plants look green. They're embedded in these membrane stacks here. And each of these stacks, or not the whole stack, but each like disc within the stack is called a thylakoid. We can call it a thylakoid disc. And really it's just a sac. Basically what that means is a membrane with empty space inside. So it's sort of like a pita pocket, if you want to think of it that way, but all of them are sort of connected together. So why is this important? The thylakoids are what contains the green pigments, and a pigment is just a molecule. And why is that important? Because they absorb the light. It can also carry other pigments that appear to be different colors, yellow, orange, sometimes red. The orange and the yellow and the green are the ones that absorb most of the light, though, that is going to be used for photosynthesis. All right, so if we go back up to this thylakoid stack here, we just said it contains pigments to absorb the light, so let's draw light coming into the system. There's our light energy. Big E is energy. So basically we're looking at sunlight. It's going to be captured by those pigments molecules in the thylakoid. And so all the processes that happen within these thylakoid membranes and the stacks are called the light reactions because they are directly dependent on light. And there are lectures about these specifically that you should watch, but I'm just going to go through not the logic of each of these processes, but just overall what's happening. So sometimes I might abbreviate light reactions LR. What else goes into the light reactions? Well, we have water coming into the light reactions, and the water is eventually converted to oxygen and released from the chloroplast. Interestingly, we often think oxygen, that's why photosynthesis happens, to make oxygen. Actually, oxygen is just a byproduct of it. The real purpose of photosynthesis is to make a carbon compound, as we mentioned in the very beginning of the video. So that's not actually this process here. We are making in this process products to help run the carbon making process. as you shall see. So one of the products that's made in the light reactions that's needed to go actually build a carbon is NADPH. That's just a molecule, and it's carrying around electrons. It's like a taxi shuttle, which is important because we need those electrons to build our organic molecules. We also need some energy to do some building of those organic molecules, so we're going to make some ATP. So that big E again is high energy. The process that is going to use the ATP and NADPH in order to build the carbon compounds is a cycle. If you've watched, there's a video that's the carbon cycling, and one of the cycles is the Calvin cycle. Let's draw it like this. I'm doing it as a loop because that's showing it's a cycle, which just basically it means it starts and ends with the same molecule. So this is the Calvin cycle, CC for abbreviation. And what goes in here, we have CO2, carbon dioxide, into the Calvin cycle. Then the Calvin cycle uses the ATP and NADPH plus the carbon dioxide and puts the carbon dioxides together into an organic molecule. And by organic, we made of carbons, and then some oxygens, hydrogens, and so forth. And that makes sense, right? Because if we have CO2 going in with the carbons, we have carbon compound or organic molecule coming out. Once the cycle uses the ATP, it leaves as ADP, which is the used up version of that. There's a lecture about ATP if you've forgotten about it. So this is now a low energy. It can go pick up more Ps or phosphates in the light reactions and turn into more ATP. So that cycles, these little orange arrows. And then our used up form of NADPH is NADP plus. So this is just a molecule that is now available to pick up more electrons. So the NADP plus can go pick up more electrons in the light reactions and then be full as NADPH and then drop off those electrons in the Calvin cycle. So those cycle between the light reactions and the Calvin cycle. So this is the overall process of photosynthesis.